So I believe that everything that happens around you and the way your world looks like has to do with your nervous system. It all happens through the lens of your nervous system. Let's see why. So we have something in the brain that is called the reticular activating system. And what this does is it basically chooses to focus on certain information in your world over others. You know how the world is, right? Like, it's so busy nowadays. It's like everything and everyone wants to catch our attention. There's so many things to pay attention to. And we could not possibly, our brain just doesn't have the capacity to focus and see and register all the information that we have around us all the time. So what it does is it kind of chooses the information that is relevant to you based on what it knows for you. Let's say, for example, you're looking for, I don't know, a specific shop that allows you to send a specific parcel, right? And you don't see it anywhere. You're just like, I've never seen that shop. Like, apparently there are many of them, but I've never seen one. And you start looking for them, you find one, you send your parcel, you're okay. And then you notice the following days you keep seeing those shops that you had never seen before, and they're right under your nose, and you just like, I never paid attention to them before. Yeah, because your brain didn't judge this information useful to you. So your reticular activating system just ignores the information. And then there is something else that is really interesting that is called the confirmation bias. So it's basically your brain wants to save energy wherever it can. And it's much easier for it to just agree with you, to just agree with what you believe. So if you believe that, I don't know, like all cows should be black and white, then you're only gonna see cows that are black and white. Because, it's just easier instead of allowing you to see like blue cows everywhere and then having to wonder why this goes against your belief and waste energy like thinking about that. It's just like, okay, you believe they're all black and white. Let's just focus on that. That's what you're gonna see. So that's why what we believe is what we perceive. And don't believe me on that. There are some great recommendations that I will give you here that you can have a look and read more about. And I'm sure it's going to be explained way better than what I just did. So Biology of Beliefs from Bruce Lipton. We have all the work of Joe Dispenza, and then the book Rewire from Nicole Vignola is also a great one to understand those concepts. So how does our biology create our story? So we have, that's better. So we have something that is called a neuroception. Neuroception comes from neuro, from the nervous system. And if we oversimplify everything, your nervous system main role is to keep you safe and to keep you alive. So by the way of the neuroception, it's gonna be checking everything that happens around you, on inside you, 24/7, and it's just going to check that you're safe and there is nothing that could be a threat around you. So what it does, it picks up on cues of safety or danger, and this system is unconscious. It happens without your conscious awareness. And then it triggers an answer. So your autonomic nervous system triggers an answer based on what it has perceived to be either a safe event or person or something that could be a threat. Then it acts on that. And all of that goes beyond your consciousness. And when it perceives something as a threat, it will trigger a survival response. So that's what we call the fight and flight response. And from there, our biology will respond. So we might notice changes in our body, in the way our heart starts to beat faster, for example, or maybe a change in temperature in our hands, in our feet, even in our face. We might like all of a sudden get all red and hit in the face because our nervous system picked up on something before we realize it did. Or we might also start feeling different emotions all of a sudden. We don't know what is happening, but it's a reaction to something that our nervous system picked up on. And then what follows is our mind starts to make a story about that, instead to interpret what might be happening based on what your mind perceives from the changes that happen in your biology. Because your mind wants to find a reason why that is happening. It wants to understand. And that story is going to shape who you think you are, what the world is, and how safe the world is, and also what actions you need to take next. So I'm going to give you an example so it makes more sense. Let's say you're just relaxing, reading a book or watching a series, and all of a sudden your partner comes in and asks you a question. Did you do that? And there is no threat in the question, there is no particular emotion, but your nervous system picks it up as something that might be threatening. And for that, it's gonna take information from the past. So if it reminds it a situation that happened in the past, where, for example, your parents will come and be like, hey, did you do your homeworks? And then what will follow is you being in problems with your parents because you actually didn't do your homeworks, then that will start a stress response, right? So someone else coming to you in a similar situation, no matter if it's 30 years after and you don't have homeworks to do and your partner isn't the judge for what you do or what you don't do in your life, your nervous system, which works with the unconscious and doesn't have a perception of time and how old you are, sees someone coming in and asking about something you did or you didn't do. Straight away it's gonna go back to that situation that was happening in the past with your parents, and it's gonna interpret that as a danger because maybe you're gonna get into troubles for relaxing when you shouldn't be relaxing. So what follows from that simple question is that your heart starts racing and your nervous system is preparing you to fight back. And so you might feel heat in your body and you might feel your heart is starting to beat faster. And also maybe you start to feel angry, or maybe you just snap back at your partner for that innocent question. And all of that happens without your awareness, right? Your response to your partner is actually a reaction to all of this that happened unconsciously within your nervous system. And so your mind is gonna wake up from all of that and start trying to understand why you respond that way. Why are you angry all of a sudden? And maybe it's gonna make a story about how your partner is never letting you relax. It's really judgy of you, of what you're doing. And this is gonna create that story, right? Of maybe you deserve a better partner that, is not so judgy, that understands your need for rest, and so on and so on. And what's really interesting is the perception of the nervous system is one thing, but maybe the reality was totally different, and your partner maybe was just asking if you did take out the rubbish or if he needed to do it, and there was nothing judgy in his tone. But because of the interpretation of the nervous system, you're already in that mindset of, oh, he's not the right partner for you because he doesn't let you relax. Can you see how this is shaping what we think? If we are staying in this situation where your parents thought you were lazy, maybe this situation has been repeating itself with different relationships, different partners in your life, where you feel like everyone is really quick to call you lazy when you just want to rest. That's how you started to see the world, and that's also how you started to see yourself. But reality might be actually different. It's just a story that you made up from that perception of your nervous system, from a simple question that was totally innocent. So let's take a bigger example. So let's say that you have a goal that you decided you really, really want to achieve. So the process usually that goes for when you decide you want to achieve that goal is that you follow different steps, you take some action, and then you reach that goal and can get the reward of that goal, right? What also happens is that let's say if it's a bigger goal, if it's not like just a simple goal where you want water, you go in the kitchen, you fill up a glass of water, and here you go, you have your water. Let's say it's something a bit more complex, like let's say you want to reach 10K a month. Okay, so you're gonna take some actions, which could be maybe looking for freelancer opportunities for whatever you do. And usually this is followed by life. So life happens, and there are like some little things that get like thrown in your way, some like triggers and events. It might be, for example, someone that says, oh, you're never gonna reach that goal, that's not doable, you're dreaming. Or it might be that you reach out to a client and they're like, oh no, you're too expensive. Just like little thing that happens, as life does. And they're like little arrows on your way to getting your goal, to reaching your goal. And every time one of those little trigger comes, your nervous system reacts. It's just biological. Your nervous system reacts. And this is really much unconscious, right? These reactions, as we've seen before, they come from the unconscious, which is kind of a mix of all the beliefs and the values that you have. And those were shaped by your past experiences and how you grew up. So, for example, if you grew up in a family, so if we stay with that example, if you grew up in a family where your parents were always talking about how hard it is to earn money, then every time someone comes in and say, oh, you're crazy, your nervous system is going to react. Because yes, indeed, the unconscious, the proof that you have in your unconscious for that world, for that dream, they're actually agreeing with that trigger. And maybe it's stressful, right, for your nervous system. If you want to achieve that goal and your nervous system is like, no way, stop it, you can't. Don't waste energy, don't waste time on that. It's dangerous. It's not where you want to arrive, because that's not something that is actually achievable. We don't have proof that you can achieve that. So there is a bit of like fear also coming up from what is in the unconscious. And as we have seen from that, the mind is going to make a story. So the conscious is going to make its own interpretation from what you're feeling in your body when you get triggered. When someone tells you you're crazy for wanting this, you get stressed, you get like maybe a bit down, and then the mind is going to make a story of like, of course, that's not doable for you. Why are you thinking that? Are you crazy? You don't have the skills anyway. You don't have the will, you don't have the motivation, and so on and so on. And what I want to show you here as well is, even if consciously you stay with, no, I can do it, and you do affirmations and you motivate yourself and so on and so on, you can't skip the biology of it. The connection between the mind and the body is so that 80% of the information received by your body goes up to your mind, and only 20% of the information goes from the mind to your body. So even if you're really, really psyching up yourself to believe that you can do something, if your body is still feeling stress about it, if you're still feeling the anxiety, the fear, your nervous system is not going to change just because you're saying, oh, it's okay, you can do it. If it doesn't feel like it can do it, it's going to stay in that fear. And as we've seen before, the unconscious and the nervous system is really running your life, because it decides for you what is available in your world. You can't really force yourself to see something that you're not seeing. So we will want to decide something and go all the way, like skip the biology, skip the unconscious, go directly to the mind and reach our goal. But that's not really how it works. We really need to go through the biology, the body, the unconscious, and the nervous system. The problem is that the body and the mind are talking two different languages. The nervous system, the unconscious, is talking through sensations. And the mind is talking with words. But the body doesn't understand words. It understands sensation. It understands what it feels, not what you tell it. So we kind of for this to work, we need a bridge between the unconscious and the conscious. We need them to be able to understand each other, right? All right, so let's talk about a bridge that we have access to via somatic tools. As we've seen before, the nervous system uses neuroception as a way to keep you alive and judge what to take action on or not. So if you put yourself in a situation where your nervous system detects stress and a possible threat, so for example, let's say if we stay in that example from before, that you want to get more clients, and you go in networking event and you start networking with people. You've never done that before. You're not really sure. You don't have the confidence really, but you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna fake it. You start talking to all those people, and your nervous system detects a threat because it doesn't believe, it doesn't have the proof that this is available to you, right? So it's gonna put you in a position where you can defend yourself, because that is a possible threatening situation to it. So it could be, for example, that someone is just gonna start mocking you or put you in a really uncomfortable position. So it's gonna prepare you to fight back, and you're gonna feel this stress and anxiety coming up. And that's what the nervous system is creating for you, the environment it's creating. So the tool that we can use is what we call interoception. Interoception is the perception of what is happening in our body. So for example, in that situation that I was describing, when you feel that your body starts to get warmer, that your heart is beating faster, that maybe you start to speak faster as well, you start looking around you really fast, you can't really focus on one thing, and you're just looking around as if a lion was gonna, all of a sudden come in the room and attack you. And all of these little things can be signals. So if we can pick up on those little signals from the body, then we can tell our minds, okay, look at what's happening. Our nervous system detects that circumstance, that situation as stress. And I can tell this because I'm breathing faster, I'm feeling hot. Therefore, I can recognize that I'm feeling stressed, that my nervous system is feeling that I'm under threat. Okay, let's see what we can do about that. So let's address that first before we move on. So that's cool. That little thing of picking up on what's happening inside you, in your body, paying attention to this is called interoception. And that's our bridge to bringing conscious awareness to what's happening to our system in the present moment. Because many times we put ourselves in a situation that is stressful. Our nervous system and our body reacts to it. We feel stressed, we feel anxious, and we just kind of ride the wave and, react to it. And then remove ourselves from the situation. Let's say the networking event is over and you come back home, and all of a sudden you realize how stressed you were and how things that you said and the way you spoke were responses to your stress. But you didn't realize in the present moment that it was what was happening, and maybe it would have helped you more if you had been able to calm yourself. I don't know, go in the bathroom for a few minutes and work on your breathing, and then come back and continue talking to people in a more relaxed way. So that's why interoception is really interesting, because it can help us understand what our nervous system is doing by feeling into it. And also before our mind starts to make up stories about it. So what I want to say as well is that the common model that we see everywhere for reaching a goal, so from goal to future, in our case here. So what we see and what we are being told is that you first need to do something, then you can have that thing that you want. And then once you have it, you can be that person that you want to be. That's not the story our nervous system is telling us. Our nervous system is telling us first you need to be, so be confident, then you can you can go and act as a confident person, therefore you can have whatever you want to have. There is no skipping the be. There is no, I will go all the way, skip the biology, go all the way, talk to my mind, convince it that I am, like fake it until I make it. Then once I will have this, then I can be that person. And it does happen. I know you're gonna challenge me and you're gonna say, no, some people are able to just like do that, do like directly talk themselves into being who they want to be. Most of the time in that situation, when they do get what they want to get, they are going to in some way sabotage what they have because they're lacking the be and they can't get the be being this what they want because they've skipped ahead. So that's when you see for example, people getting rich all of a sudden, and then they just like almost give away their money. They just like start spending until they don't have anything anymore, and it's almost as a when they reach that state that they know, that state that they don't have anything as was their previous state, because they have never felt as a rich person, and they kind of like arrive there by chance in a way, and so they don't feel comfortable staying there. And their nervous system and their unconscious doesn't feel comfortable being there because they haven't done this work first. That's the story of a lot of people that win the lottery. So if we oversimplify, we have two main nervous system states. We have a state where we are regulated and a state where we are dysregulated and in a survival response. So when we are regulated, we are calm, we are confident, and we are feeling good. We have access to the neocortex part of our brain, the creative part of our brain. So we are open to options, and we feel confident in connecting with other people and communicating. And we are creative, flexible, and we feel grounded. However, when we are in a survival response, so the survival response can be fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And I have another video on this if you want to learn more about them. So in this state, the unconscious dominates. It's almost like we are not in control anymore. We are just reacting. And it's almost like if we are not actually here and someone else is kind of like owning our body and using it instead of us. So we have less options. A lot of the time when we are in a really high state of stress, we can't think of a solution. And we are really much in a reactive behavior where maybe a single question, when we are in a state of like fight, for example, we will reply in a really angry way. And then when we calm down and come back to a regulated state, sometimes it's hard to like figure out why we reacted that way, when actually when you're calm, you're like, why was I so angry? Actually, I don't understand. And again, it's because it's your unconscious was running you. It's almost like if you were two different persons and you can't really think properly. And when your emotions are kind of like overflowing, it's really hard to think in a way that can resolve a situation. It's like you are really reacting to a possible threat. And so you don't want to be kind, you don't want to be patient when your nervous system is telling you that there is a threat in front of you and you need to be really careful and run off. So as we can see, our physiology overrides our logical brain. So what actually is regulation? What do I mean by regulation? It's about recognizing when we are moving out of regulation. So as I was explaining before, so if you are in a state of fight, for example, where you feel really angry and you're like snapping at someone, you want to recognize that this is happening. You want to recognize these signs in your body telling you that you are in a survival state. So you can choose to move into regulation before continuing the conversation that you're having, for example. So recognizing that you're moving out of regulation means like you receive some kind of information or some interaction, and all of a sudden you feel the heat starting in your body. You feel your heart starting to race, and you can feel that you are moving out of regulation. You're moving into a survival state. And that will allow you to kind of like catch it before you start being reactive to your environment and to people around you. So being able to identify what state you're currently in is the key to returning to a regulated state. Because if you don't realize that you are dysregulated, you are not gonna take steps to come back to a regulated state. So the more you work with your body, the more you work with your feelings, the more you can develop a sense of safety to come back to regulation in the moment when you see yourself going into dysregulation. That is something that we develop with time. So all of this is what we will be going over during the challenge, and I will give you more information to really understand and feel in your body what it means to be in a regulated and dysregulated state. And we will also be talking about how to move into regulation when you're feeling that you are dysregulated, and also how to work with regulating your nervous system in the day-to-day.